It's been what, 25 weeks of asking you this question again and again and again. Is Kenya ready for a female president? Well, tonight we are live here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, where the 5 contestants will go head-to-head on the much-anticipated presidential debate. The voting lines are still open. Remember to vote once per day. Details of how to vote and who you're voting for are running on your screens right now. It's been an amazing journey for these 5 extraordinary ladies to get to where they are now. Before we get into the auditorium, let's go back in time. It started with a call to the women of Kenya, a call to service, a call to make a difference, to be a trailblazer, a quest to find out a fundamental question for the people of our nation. Is Kenya ready for a female president? What would that mean for this country? Over 1,000 women heeded the call, showing the depth of opportunity that public service has in Kenya. No presidential campaign can realistically have over 1,000 contenders. So the thousands of applications were sifted through, narrowing down the numbers to just over 70. 71 women then came to the academy to immerse themselves in a transformational approach to leadership. One that did not simply consider typical politics, but also immersed them in social and economic issues facing the nation. Week after week, the contestants went through trainings that challenged them, tasks that tested them, presentations that stretched them, and bittersweet eliminations that reduced them in number. Milestone after milestone was passed, from the 70 to the top 40, then top 16. The dynamics changed too, from group assignments to eventually standing solely on their own merits for each assignment and presentation.
I can hear you.
Now, only 5 remain. Tonight, there is no classroom, no trainer, no room to work on assignments, no crowds in the field to excite, and most importantly, they have to go beyond impressing the judges.
I didn't hear your ideologies.
They need to impress you, the audience, enough to vote for them. They will have to think on their feet and showcase the knowledge at their fingertips as they debate live and in real time, guided by seasoned moderators, in the ultimate task to convince you that they have what it takes to take the highest seat of leadership. So tonight, John Anwaroro Kiai, Betty Adera, Renee Mayaka, Nerea Okech, and Omulhel Harun Mohammed for a live debate from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, moderated by Sharon Momanyi and accompanied by Grace Kuria and Michael Gitonga. They will question the contestants, receive questions from the audience, and you at home to ask the contestants and keep the top 5 on their toes for this nerve-wracking event. At the end of it all, will you still vote for your favorite contestant? Will your alliances be changed by a powerful performance? Who will stumble and who will shine? It's all happening on this penultimate presidential episode only on KTN Home. This is Miss President, the live debate edition.
Give yourselves a round of applause once again. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And to you, my audience at home, thank you very much. In fact, I'll start with you. Thank you so much for your utmost support in this program. Since we started until last week's episode, you have given us 84.126 million viewers. Round of applause, asante. Wow, 84 million. Very quickly, let me introduce our moderators. I'll start with Sharon. Sharon from KTN is a features and current affairs reporter with KTN. She'll be ably assisted by Mike Gitonga, who's a KTN News anchor and host of the KTN Morning Show, and Grace Kuria, features a reporter specializing in human interests and health stories. Before we start, time for us now to introduce our 5 amazing contestants. From Garissa County, it's Umurher Mohammed.
So I first heard of Miss President through a friend. So when I came, or almost the last to come, Miss President has completely changed me. Because now, people are calling you up for events because they feel like your presence would be of importance. Because you're Miss President, you have to own up to the title and show up for the community. One thing I'm proud of is the fact that I'm getting to do this at this age. And maybe that's something I would want to encourage the young people. Take risks. Don't always say you're in campus or you still have time. No one has time.
From Homa Bay County, it's Nerea Amondi.
We have quite a number of youth who come to us. One of them comes and he was carrying a bunch of form. So I took it and looked at it and I applied. It has been quite an emotional journey. I've come to understand how people make decisions that sometimes are irrational and they act in haste. So I've been able to learn to be focused. It's quite important for me, and I've learned that from each and every competitor.
From Nairobi County, it's Betty Adera.
I mentor almost 200 young women. So one of them is the one who saw the advert. So the minute I started looking at one question after another is when reality of the magnitude of this program hit me, and I said, whoa, this is one place I really want to get in, and this is one place I want to certainly, submit my application and hope, that they pick me. I'm more conscious now of even what I say in public, what I say at work. That being conscious has increased, in me just because, of the status that Miss President, brings with it. And I believe that is really why I'm in this race.
From Nyamira County, it's Honorable Irene Mayaka.
I heard about Miss President on Facebook at first. So I went through the concept and looked at it, and then I was like, this sounds interesting. So that's how I applied for Miss President. The pressure, the training, this has pushed us to the limit, but it helped because now it's very different. And all this is thanks to the knowledge that I acquired right here in the Miss President Academy.
And finally, from Nyeri County, it's Waruguru Kiai.
I got to hear about Miss President on social media. The journey through Miss President has changed me in more ways than one. I have gained valuable skills that put me in a very beautiful position and a very different, unique position to actually lead my people back in Nyeri County. I am inspired and encouraged to be better. I feel confident, and this is quite different from who I was before I joined the Miss President Academy.
So there you have it, our 5 contestants. Before I hand over to Sharon, let me just acknowledge the presence of our sponsors, Media Focus in Africa. It's good to see you. Your Excellency, the Swedish Ambassador, Karibu Sana. Regional Director, Hivos Foundation, to see you. And of course, the Speaker of the Nyamira County Assembly, Karibu Sana, also recognizing Milia Dhiambo Mweshimiwa. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for your support. Sharon?
Thank you very much, Jimmy. And as a debate moderators, we will be guiding the discussions between the contestants on selected topics. These are the topics that formed part of the trainings and mentorship that you received during the program. However, the questions that we will be posing to you are our own and have not been shared with anyone.
For the first set, you will each answer the same question with no interruption. For the subsequent sets, you will answer the same questions. However, we may interlude to challenge what you're saying or for follow-up. In the subsequent sets as well, you will also be allowed as contestants to challenge each other and follow up on what you have said. Just a reminder that you all agreed that you'll address each other with respect, with dignity, and with civil language. Sharon.
Right, and let's now get straight to the issues of this debate. The first theme of discussion will be presidency and leadership. And for this segment, I will pose one question that you will all answer, and you will answer according to the order of your entry to the stage. So I will start, though, with the last contestant to enter the stage and finish with the first contestant. You have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer this question. You can see the timer that is ahead of you. I'll only interrupt if you're getting out of your time. This first question to you, Waruguru. Now, according to the Constitution of Kenya, Article 131 and Section 2, the President shall, among other things, promote respect for the diversity of the people and the communities in Kenya. How would you, as Miss President, ensure that this constitutional requirement is upheld?
Good evening. Thank you very much for that question. My first approach would be to ensure that we respect each other. Kenya is indeed a beautiful country with different cultures, but I think that sometimes we miss the point as a country because sometimes we tend to feel that perhaps one tribe or one cultural background is superior than the other, and we failed to figure out that when it comes, like in terms of issues back at home, or when we are having issues of ethnicity and negative ethnicity, that is when we are required to come together. So as a president, I am committed to ensuring that we respect each other. You are Kikuyu, you are Luo, you come from your different tribes, but they are specific things that are very special and unique to you against any other culture. But what is most important is just using your cultural background to respect each other, and also to have like promotion and just celebrating our diversity. Respect is very key for me, because without respect, this country can fail and fall very deep in the very veins of negative ethnicity, and with negative ethnicity, we cannot have economic growth. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Waruguru. Irene, how would you promote respect for diversity of the people and the communities of Kenya?
Thank you very much, Sharon, for that question. As the President of Kenya and as the national of symbol unity in this country, the first thing that I will do, because we've noticed that after every electioneering period, the country is divided. So as the President, the first thing that I will ensure that I do is to remind Kenyans that we are first Kenyans before we are anything else. I do admire the fact that we come from different ethnical backgrounds, we have different cultural backgrounds, but then again, at the end of it all, there is the Kenya aspect at the top of it. And one of the things that I will do to make sure that this is adhered to is that in this country, we don't have anything called like a national attire. So as a president, to promote and to ensure that Kenyans feel as one is to make sure that we do have a national attire in this country. The second thing that I will do is to involve the citizens of this country through public participation, because this is catered for in our constitution, and to make them feel that whenever they have any issues in this country that they need to address, whenever they are discriminated against because of where they come from, that this is a matter that is dealt with immediately. That whenever, as a country, we have appointments in place
I will make sure as a president that the appointments do not only come from one tribal community, but that they are from different tribes in this country, so that we ensure that that Maasai boy down there in Kitengela, or that Turukana boy, or the girl down in Nyamira, they're all included in this government, and they feel that this nation is theirs and that they belong to this nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irene. Betty, how would you uphold this constitutional requirement?
The diversity that exists in Kenya is as wide as the sun and the moon. As Miss President, I would put in front a plan where I adopt the rigorous use of art so as to communicate our cultural heritage that we are so rich in. I will ensure that children in school are taught about all the other tribes that exist in Kenya, and not just on the book, but make every effort within the Ministry of Education so that children actually visit other places that they did not grow up with. The other diversity is around gender. We have men, we have women. I will put it to myself to ensure that women are just as included in the process of nation building and in the process of decision making at all levels in this country. Young people, being the majority, of our population in Kenya, will occupy a central and integral position within the governance of this country if I become Miss President. I will also ensure that other groups that would otherwise be discriminated upon, and those who represent the minority communities, such as children, such as people who live with disabilities, such as people who are living with HIV, and so on, are actually catered for and made sure that their voices are heard in a systematic way. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. And Nerea.
Thank you. As Vice President, I have heard what Kenyans say, that they really just want to be in one Kenya, but they also want one Kenya that ensures that there is fair and equitable distribution of resources. So for me, I want to appreciate that every Kenyan comes with unique skills and abilities just based on their culture alone, based on the way they are structured within their communities. But very important to me, I don't want to leave the persons with disability behind. So that aspect of non-discrimination for me is very important. As president, I look at the youth as the people who are really the future of all of our country. And as I look forward to launching of the employment agency this year, I want to make sure that every Kenyan youth gets their fair share of employment. I want to look at policies. I want to look at how to implement all the activities and initiatives that have to do with policy. I want to look at small businesses that are actually favorable to the youth. I want to look at, in terms of the Pokomo, the Giriama, I'm looking at you from the coast. I want to look at everyone from Maasai land. What do you bring to the table? I have been to Narok. I hear you. I want to see that in every country, in every office, I want a public service that has everyone and has a face that represents this country. And I want to come to you as a servant. Every public servant must be happy so that they can serve you Kenyans, no matter how diverse you are, no matter how you're structured as a person, no matter how you look as a person. Thank you.
Thank you, Nerea. And Umu.
Hello. I would just look at this from a practical point of view. As we speak currently, we are a devolved country, and as president, those are structures I would take advantage of. Chapter 11 talks about devolution. And it's the mandate of the county governments to ensure that diversity is something that's celebrated and at the top. And as president, my mandate is to ensure that each and every structure and each and everything is followed to the core. The reason as to why we have devolution is to ensure that the power lies with the people from every region, because our diversity is something we should celebrate as a country and not look at it as something that should differentiate us, especially during the electioneering period. And now that counties and resources are devolved, we have the power as people, and I would look at it from basic education. As Kenyans, I would ensure that as a president, each and every Kenyan has the integrity to respect their fellow counties, and I will also look at diversity by ensuring that these counties partnering with each other and working together. If you've been following my strategy as president throughout the show, I talked of the Kenya Inter-County Trade Initiative, and this is something that can promote diversity. If the miraa that comes from Meru makes it to Garissa, why can't the cows from Garissa make it to Kisumu? How else can we celebrate diversity if we are not working together? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies. That brings us to the end of the first segment, which was on presidency and leadership. And at this point, I believe we'll be taking a short break.
Yes, we're going to be taking a short break, but do stay with us right here on Miss President. We've mainly focused on the theme of leadership, but we will be coming back. But I'm told that we still have a little bit of time, so allow me to just interrogate some of the questions, or rather your answers. And I'll start with you, Betty. You mentioned in your answer that you'd have the voices of the minority to be heard. In your opinion, what is currently missing in our system? Because if you look at our system, we do have space in the National Assembly for people with disability. We have women representation in terms of affirmative action. So what is it that you do that is different that would ensure that those voices are heard?
Thank you. Having those voices currently represented in the National Assembly is just one part of it. But the other part is actually how that can be operationalized at all levels within our country, Kenya. If we speak about young people, for instance, when we talk about public participation and we call meetings around that, are those spaces safe for young people to come in? Are they motivated to come in and actually share their views insofar as how they think they should be governed? When you look at women, for instance, young and middle-aged and also old, elderly women, you would find that there have been systemic discriminations that have been meted against them that make them not have their voices be heard in places that actually matter. While we have representation in the local assemblies actually, and also the National Assembly, for me the gap still sits at how would we ensure that the voice of the real Mama Mboga, is actually heard. Now, as Miss President, here's what I would do differently. I would ensure that I have ward-based caucuses of groups that are marginalized or groups that represent the minorities, be it young people, be it women, be it even young women and girls, and also be it, persons who are living with disability, and ensure that at that local level, cause a relationship to be strengthened between them and their local leader, who at that level is the MCA, and ensure that their voices are heard just right there, and also brought up all the way up to where it needs to be heard at the policy level. My point is we just need to do more, and we need to do it bigger, and we need to do it in a more strategic and deliberate way. Thank you.
In your answer, you emphasized that what you would ensure is that Kenyans respect each other. What I did not hear is the how. How would you do this?
In Kenya, the reality of our country is that the last name will always matter. And the last name has denied Kenyans jobs in this country. The last name has made it hard for young people to thrive in this country. What I am saying is, can you look at me as a human being, as a Kenyan, and just respect me for who I am? Yes, we come from different cultures and different backgrounds, but can you pick something good from that background and do not eliminate me or do not make it hard for me to thrive? Because that is the reality that we are having now in this country, whereby somebody good, somebody brilliant, a young woman out there thriving, trying to make a living, will not get the opportunities that she requires simply because of the last name. Love me because I am Kikuyu. Love me because I am Luo or Kalenjin. Pick the goods from it. However, I also emphasize on this need, and I'm addressing every Kenyan. Do not use your ethnicity, your tribe, to make it harder for somebody else to thrive. Do not make it hard for them to make their living or to feel part and parcel of being Kenyan. If you cannot pick anything good from them, I would rather you keep quiet, because every time we speak, we kill each other and we lose properties and we make it hard for us to feel like we are Kenyan. Then this country cannot grow. So I want us to pick the best from each other and build on it and respect our different backgrounds and just celebrate them. Thank you very much.
Right. And Irene, you emphasized public participation. which is a word we have all had as Kenyans time and again. Practically paint to us how you will involve the public in policy making. How exactly will you ensure that there is, effective participation?
Sharon, I'll give you a very good example. For example, if I am buying you a pair of shoes and you wear size 7, but I bring you a size 6, then it doesn't fit. And in this country, we need to learn, because we already have this in our constitution, public participation, right down to the level of the ward. If I am going to the ward to talk to them about a budget for the county that is meant for that particular ward, and let me give you an example. Let me pick a ward like Bogichora, for example, from Nyamira. I am going to them with a budget that says that I will allocate 3 million to having a road there. But the people there tell me, hey, the road is not our most important need. We do not have water. We have to keep going to the river to fetch water. Can we have wells? So it is up to me as a leader to then interchange that and put the things that are necessary for Kenyans first. But my challenge to Kenyans is this, that yes, this is provided in our constitution, but we don't have Kenyans participating. Kenyans out here cry on a daily basis saying that things are not working as they would want. And as a president, my urge to all Kenyans would be that when you get an opportunity to participate in this country, when you get an opportunity to make a difference in this country, participate. Because one, it is your right. And when you're not given that particular right to participate, you have access to the judicial system to go and challenge that. Let's start having policies made that are in reference to the things that are most important to the Kenyan people.
Right.
All right, thank you very much. And we're going to take a short break for now because of time. But for those of you who have not engaged with a follow-up question, not to worry, we'll come back with that amongst other questions. So for now, we take that break. Do stay with us right here with Ms. President.
Welcome back to Miss President.
All right, and welcome back. In case you're joining us, this is Miss President and our area of focus so far. We've gone through the first round of questions. We're now doing follow-up questions. And the area that we've focused on is presidency and leadership. Now, the question was, as president, how would you promote respect for the diversity of the people and community of Kenya? Umi, on your answer, you mentioned that you would use, and your specific word was the mandate of county government. And we already have county governments. We already have a sitting president. What is it that you do that is not being done now by the current president to ensure that you take advantage of the county government to strengthen them?
So my observation from all the counties is that every county actually has a department for the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Gender, but if you look at the kind of activities that counties do, this does not reflect at all, because every county has their own culture. 44 communities plus have something they are rich in. But if we are able to have a day that we can celebrate, a special occasion just for counties where they can celebrate different cultures, different diversities, different trades that they do with different counties, because I mentioned the Kenya Intertrade Initiative, which will basically be counties trading with other counties. You can imagine if someone is selling or having a business with someone who's several counties away, that's the only way you can promote diversity, love, and respect, because the most important thing for a Kenyan today is the food that they need to have on their table. So many crops are going to waste in the places that are known as the food baskets, while counties like the northern and Asal areas do not have food. As president, I would ensure that I take advantage of the counties to ensure that each governor has their active departments that are ensuring these things are active, and I ensure that every Kenyan is able to respect each other. And it will automatically come, because when I know this is where my food comes from, there's no way I can insult a Kamau today, because tomorrow I'll go hungry. Or this other person who needs meat every day, and I have a lot of that in my supply, if you dare do anything to me, then that cuts the bond. So these are structures we can use, using businesses, economic opportunities, and cultures through the departments that are already in place. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Nerea, on promoting respect and diversity as president, on your answer you say that every Kenyan youth, you would ensure that they get their fair share. There are those who have the narrative that being youth does not necessarily qualify you to, be in a position of leadership or even to get that fair share. First of all, what is the fair share that you're talking about?
Number one thing that I am sure has not been implemented in many counties in Kenya is a 30% procurement opportunities for youth and even women. And so as a president, I look at that as unfair treatment, and that means that the youth who have not been accorded that opportunity are going to have a low standard of living. And number two, because they have a low earnings as members of this community. This country, of course, is not going to benefit from their work. And number two, I look at that as an opportunity for all our youth to ensure that, number one, you are given a fair and equitable opportunity to get into procurement in each and every county. Number one, I have seen youth who are able to code using their phones. I have seen youth who are able to do agriculture, and there is this perception that youth do not want to farm. And I want to be a president that believes that youth really want to farm. What they need is an opportunity to be shown that agriculture is a value chain, that agriculture can use technology, because a lot of youth embrace technology. So I want to look at youth from a diverse point of view. I don't want to look at youth as people who depend on us. And I also want to look at youth as people who, despite the fact that they don't own land, because that is one of the factors that people keep saying youth do not own land in this country. Youth, to me, are people who are important, and even youth living with disability. So I just want to make sure that those opportunities are going to the right youth. The youth have the right training. Youth have the right market. Youth have the right skills to ensure that they are utilized, because we need them to contribute to our taxes. This country cannot survive without taxes being paid by everybody, and also international trade.
All right, and now, Ms. President, we're going to go to the next area of focus in our discussions. And for this segment, you have 1 minute each to answer the question. You're also allowed to ask your fellow contestant to clarify what you feel needs to be clarified, or if you feel there are facts that are not that, you have room to do that. But when you do that, they now have a right of reply, which they can do in just 30 seconds. And I'll be asking this question randomly. So locally, there has been a growing number and visibility of the involvement of women in violent extremism. For example, on the 10th of September in 2016, at least 3 women attacked the Mombasa Central Police Station in what was an apparently a terrorist attack. And I will start with you, Umi. What would you say are the drivers of women's involvement in violent extremism? And what would you do as Ms. President to work with women to counter violent extremism?
So violent extremism, I look at it from a broad point. There is religious and political extremism. And one of the key things where women are active is in religious extremism. And that's because of the main things, economic opportunities. Women often are not empowered enough to have businesses. And the immediate opportunity they get is this. And then the aspect of also religious extremism being driven by the Islamic faith and stuff like that. So women are now going into marriages as a way of getting to have maybe social economic opportunities. Right. So when every time they join these groups, they become the first victims. And also social norms. Women generally are disempowered in terms of cultural norms, FGM, early marriages. In terms of enrollment in education, women are not seen. In terms of leadership, we are still struggling to have the 2/3 gender rule. So all these are factors, but the top of it being economic opportunities. If we empower women with businesses, give them capital, make it easy for them to access capital, right, then they will be able to be the peacemakers.
And you're out of time. Yeah. Thank you, Umi. And Betty, how would you address this? What are the drivers of the involvement of women in violent extremism, and how would you work with women to counter this?
As you correctly say, there's not much evidence that show the exact involvement of women in the act of violent extremism. Now, from my knowledge, I know that women are continuing to play an integral and hidden role
in propagating violent extremism, by radicalizing their children, by being the ones to move the resources and money and also plan logistics. As Ms. President, what I would do differently is I would identify grassroots organizations that are women-led and work with them by capacity building them on the issue around violent extremism, bringing to them the point that actually they're the ones who will suffer the most in any event or an attack, that is propagated by terrorism. I will also identify women leaders already existing at the grassroots level in various communities and bring them to the fore, to be like the ambassadors for the rest, to speak for the rest and speak up about this particular issue. But one thing that is super critical is economic empowerment and enablement of women generally to have the capacity to speak up for themselves and to have capacity to make decisions insofar as economics are concerned.
Right. Irene.
Thank you, Sharon. During my campaigns, especially in the county of Kwale last week, I met this lady who has opened a safe house. And I asked her why, because some of the people who were in that safe houses were very young widows. And she told me that the thing that drove her to open this was because she has been a victim of violent extremism in two different ways. One, her husband was involved and he died in the process. And secondly, her son disappeared, went away to a different country, only for her to later learn that the son was involved in violent extremism. So what she said that she's done as a solution to help some of these women, because Kwale County is one of the counties that is very prone to this particular issue, is to have safe houses. Safe houses where young women and their mothers can go to and be taught and be educated to look out for the signs in their husbands, the signs in their children that they're being converted into this. So for me as president, that is one way that I would employ to have in place as a solution for that.
Right, and you're out of time. Waruguru, how would you?
In Nyeri County has been named as one of the most active counties in terms of having cells for violent extremism. One of the main things that drives this violent extremism, mostly with women, is information gaps. They are too afraid to come up and say, we have somebody in our neighborhood who is acting and saying suspicious things, and they do not know where they can go and get information or protection on how they can safeguard themselves. So they are there in the environment, in Kieni, in Othaya, thriving in their communities, but they are too afraid to come up and say, there is somebody in our community who is doing this, and we feel that what they are doing has potential to harm our security. So unless we bridge those gaps, there will still be the fear of there's somebody in our community who is doing things, but still we cannot come out and say those things for fear of repercussions, for fear of just being discriminated. That is what is making violent extremism among women thrive in Nyeri County, and I think even across central Kenya and the whole country.
Thank you. Thank you, Waruguru. And finally on this round, Nerea, what are the drivers and what would you do?
Yes, I think a woman, and being a woman myself, a woman nurtures, a woman mothers. And I think that is one of the very reasons why sometimes it's easy for a woman like myself to get involved. One of the ways it happens is because if I'm in a relationship as a woman and my man influences me, the first thing is I want to protect my household. I want to protect my son. I want to protect my husband. And so when a woman hides arms, when a woman pushes drugs that are going to be used to be sold so that to fund terrorism acts or even to fund extremist acts, it simply means that a woman is being a woman. So one of the ways in which I could do it is to make sure that I turn that around and use that woman's nurturing side to ensure that they understand that not only are they the victims, but they can also be perpetrators. So they see both sides of it. I want every woman to appreciate that and turn that around, use it on our sons and our husbands. Thank you.
All right, so apart from the audience at home, we do have a live audience here where we are. And at this point, I'd like to bring in Grace Kuria, who is also helping us moderate, to just speak a few questions from the audience. So over to you, Grace.
Great, Mike. And as you rightly said, it is now time for the audience to pose their questions to the contestants. And straight to it, I will start with Madam Mendy Njonjo, the Regional Director, HIVOS. Karibu sana, Madam. Just stand up and I'll pose your question to the contestants.
Thank you. Good evening, contestants. Women have been in the workplace, will be in the workplace, but despite having millions of Kenyans present in the factories, present in the farms, we still find only about 5% of leadership positions when it comes to the corporate sector are carried out by women. So this is largely attributed to very discriminatory cultural practices, as well as an inability to make sure that the current laws are implemented. And as president, what would you do to try and make sure that this abysmal 5% becomes a more acceptable over 50%? Thank you.
All right, and this question, we're going to throw it to you randomly. You'll all answer the same question, but we'll limit it to 1 minute. Let us start with you, Nerea, with the answer to that question.
Yes, thank you. I feel that every single time, and I want to give you a very local example. Right now, we are looking at succession within Safaricom after the passing of Bob Colimo, may his soul rest in peace. And there has been a debate about whether Sylvia Mulinge should be given that seat, and I have seen Kenyans from all walks of life arguing for and against it. And I want to say that a woman who has delivered, a woman who has worked hard, a woman who understands what needs to get done in the corporate sector really ought to be celebrated. And I think it's the voices of us women in all those communities that need to say. And I'm yet to hear women in Safaricom coming up with a statement and saying that we believe that Sylvia can do it. So as president, what I want to see, even though I'm not a president for the women, I'm a president for all Kenyans. I want to ensure that everyone is celebrated, but most importantly, a woman who can deliver on their position, a woman who is competent and qualified, has the right structure and merit improvement systems that can support her.
All right, thank you. We'll come to you, Waruguru, the same question.
I feel that sometimes we have conversations in this country regarding men and women in terms of leadership, and I feel that it is time to get everyone involved in these conversations. For as long as the men feel that they're not part and parcel of empowering women or just celebrating women, there will always be resistance. There will always be the feeling that you are going ahead too far, too fast. And culture is a very big enabler. So I want us to have conversations in our cultural backgrounds, both men and women, to just agree and celebrate women. But once we have it on one side, that women need to be assisted and women need all these kinds of benefits and support, we miss out on just ensuring that the men themselves are actually agreeing to women empowerment. So let us bring the men on board. Let us have them being the drivers of women empowerment, and we will see change. And this is especially true when we are dealing in terms of the presidency, and even appointments, and even back at home in managing our finances. Right. Bring the men on board, and you will see a difference.
Right, you're out of time, but I have a follow-up question. You have 30 seconds to answer. Are you suggesting that men have not been involved in this conversation about the cultural discrimination of women, and how exactly would that conversation be channeled then to the men?
The reality is men are the biggest drivers of culture. So we need them to be on board to shape cultural messages that promote and celebrate women.
How will you bring them on board?
Now, depending on our different cultures from where we come from, the community barazas back at home are a very good avenue of just having these conversations. Bring the women on board under a tree or in a school and get them to see what it means to empower a woman, and let them say it from themselves, that fine, we have seen that this is what women can do, and this will shape our cultural messages.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Umi, over to you. Remember, you have a minute to answer the same question, and the question was only 5% of women in leadership, and this is possibly because of discriminatory culture. Your answer to that?
So I would look at two things. Patriarchy, which is an enabler of this issue. I come from a patriarchal society, so I understand the challenges of women getting up to leadership. It doesn't mean we lack them. Women are there. So I would ensure that I fight patriarchy as president. And how would I fight that? I would ensure that when appointments are being made, right from my own cabinet, all through the corporates and everything, because I am the president, I have the power to overturn decisions. I would ensure that women are at the forefront, women are appointed, and not just any woman, because we do not want to be awarding women who are not competent. I would ensure that the women are vetted and are women who have a track record of integrity, And I will also look at the women leaders today. We do not support fellow women. We have the female caucus. We do not see any much support coming from the female leaders. So I would throw a challenge to the sitting female leaders. We have the affirmative action seats. Let us come together and support each other, recommend women whom we see are competent enough. Thank you.
Okay, you're out of time, but a follow-up is, what do you think is the reason that women do not support women?
That is a myth, first of all, but at some point it is there.
You
because
just said that that most women don't support women. So
Yes.
I'm just following up on what you said.
Yes, I would talk of the women leaders today. As a woman, it is our responsibility to recommend fellow women for positions whenever they come up, and that is how we can support each other. But what we see today, and as a parliament that's already sitting and having female leaders, we are yet to have even policies that are promoting and supporting women today, and that is an evidence that we are not supporting
Okay,
each
you're out
other.
of time on that, so we'll hear from Nerea on the same question.
I mean, granted, we do have well-capable female leadership. One of them is sitting right there, Honorable Millie Mabona from my very own county. And I want to proudly say that Homa Bay County actually uplifts women. We have 3 women elected as members of the National Assembly. And I do not believe in that myth 100% that women do not support each other. I think, for me, in my experience, I have been able to go out and demonstrate that this is Nerea, I am here, this is what I can do. A good example, because I'm an accountant by training. I started going to my community. I was training women from just my meager resources, and I would show them what to do in their businesses, and I made sure that it was heard. I went on radio and made it known that I am there and I'm in this space. I want to lead. And from that area, I was actually able to attract attention. And I'm standing and saying the women have supported me up to where I have reached.
All right, and finally, we have Betty. Not finally, but Betty.
Thank you. As long as the narrative that the place of a woman is in the kitchen still holds, we will forever have this challenge. In many workplaces, actually, you move in and you find the female folks in there actually fear leadership positions. If you pose a question for who wants to volunteer to take lead in a certain activity, your guess will be as good as mine that it will not likely, to be a woman. So my point is that we need to go back to the basics and look at the discriminations that exist that disadvantage women right from the time that they are girls. I would place a lot of emphasis on education, because when you look at a workplace in general, at the bottom there where you're looking for people who have like standard 8 qualifications or Form 4, women are many. But at leadership positions, the kinds of positions demand, much more qualifications, and that is part of where we begin to lose our women. Secondly, the soft skills around leadership and confidence is actually low among women, and that is something that we can fix through mentorship as well.
All right, and finally, we'll hear from you, Irene.
Gitonga, I would take a very practical approach to this. And as president, because I have a CS in charge of public service, so before I can even go to other organizations to challenge them to have women represented and grow from 5 to 50%, the first thing I would do is ask my CS for data within the state councils, within the state operations, that shows me who are in leadership and what percentage in each and every department are women and what percentage is men. Now, I wouldn't then immediately go and start sacking all the men, because now I see that the women are less. The thing that I would instruct to be put in place is that when this person leaves office, that the next person who then replaces them is a woman. So that way, progressively, we have women being accommodated in these particular instances. And then now I would then go and challenge all these other private organizations and tell them that, hey, see, if your current CEO is a male, then the next one needs to be a female.
Right. Thank you, Irene. And with that round of answers for that particular question that came from the audience, that's a question on labor rights. We want to take another break here on Miss President, but don't go too far. We have more. When we come back, we'll take more questions from the audience and also from those who are following us from home via social media. Just keep your questions coming, and we will be posing them to the particular contestant that you address them to. We'll be back shortly.
You are watching Miss President.
All right, and it is Miss President indeed, and the question is Kenya ready for the first female president? That's what we're here to find out. And so far, we have dealt with a number of thematic areas. The first one being that of presidency and leadership, violent extremism, and we also do have an audience that we have here, and Grace Kuria is handling that. So I'd like Grace to take the second question, which is posed to all the contestants. Grace, over to you.
Yes, indeed, Mike. Lots of questions from the audience, but allow me to now get to one, Mr. Henry Wera. Just rise up and pose your question to the contestants.
Thank you very much. Good evening, contestants. Now, Kenya is one of the countries facing what we call a youth bulge. A youth bulge is a situation where more than 20% of the population is made up of young people between the ages of 15 years to 24 years. Currently in Kenya, we have about 10 million people in that category. In every electioneering period, we hear presidential candidates make so many pledges and promises on how they are going to tackle the issue of youth unemployment. But the situation persists. As president, what will you do to make a sustainable solution to this problem? Thank you.
Irene, we'll start with you. What would you do as Miss President?
Thank you very much, Mr. Were, for that question. As Mr. President, the first thing that I will do, because I realize that this country is made majorly of young people, and we don't have jobs, let's face it. That is the first thing that we need to know. But as the President, I would go out on an aggressive mission through my Ministry of Sports and Youth to ensure that we do have data. Because if you ask anyone in this country, if we know the number of youth that are in this country, or where they are, or their skill set, or what they do, nobody knows that. So the first thing I would do is to make sure that we have that data in place. And this would take just about a month or two, because we do have the technologies in place. The second place that I would ensure is that the revolving funds that we currently have are then directed to these young people so that they can also start becoming their own CEOs. Because we don't have jobs, it is time that we do have young people employing people as well as CEOs.
All right, and Warogoro?
In Kenya, we have a National Youth Employment Authority, and I want to build up on that by requesting them to ensure that that authority can be able to trace young people from when they get to school to when they leave colleges. That is how then we shall be able to have targeted approaches in dealing with the issue of youth unemployment. If we cannot trace somebody who has cleared Form 4, gone to college and university, and figure out how they are faring in life, then we will always have the issue of unemployment. So tracing for me is very key in ensuring that we know what they are doing and how we can plug in. We can have as many funds as possible, but for as long as we cannot know where to just take them to, we are wasting our time. So we can have funds, but tracing is very, very important. Let us know where they are and who they are. Otherwise, we will always have first-class betrayals in this country.
All right, and you have 30 seconds maybe just for you to clarify. When you say tracing, what do you mean? Do you mean that they're getting lost somewhere? Is it that we don't have data? What exactly do you mean that you'll be tracing?
We do not have data on how many, perhaps we have data, but we have to have a very systematic approach on how we know that Anne has cleared Form 4. This is what she did in high school and college, and this is how we can support her all through her life. So what happens is when a college graduate finishes school, we do not know what they are doing and where they are. That is where I want to plug in, because we have to ensure that we have targeted approach even in funding.
All right, and just a reminder, you have 1 minute to answer the question. When there's a rebuttal, then you have 30 seconds. Umi, on the same question of the youth bulge.
I'll talk of my experience as a young person who works with young people in my own county. And the biggest challenge for youth unemployment is corruption. Funds are there. We have the national government that has a youth enterprise fund, but where is it? We are not able to be accountable. Once resources are released, young people are not able to benefit from it, because not necessarily every young person wants to sit in an office. They want to have capital to start businesses. There's opportunities online today, but everything needs little capital. So corruption is a main challenge, and it's causing youth unemployment. And as president, that's something I would deal with thoroughly. And also engaging young people, what do they want? Often we come with businesses that are already modeled and we tell them this is what you will do as young people, but we don't want that. We need our voices heard at the decision-making tables. And lastly would be also, it's very hard for even young people to access capital because the banks and everything is not easy for them. So I would ensure that it's easy for them to access capital.
You are out of time on that one. Thank you very much, Betty.
Thank you. I would invest in continuous evaluation and assessments to determine what the market needs are and tailor the training of young people to meet those needs so that we have youth who are trained not only for certification but for occupation. Number two, I would put in place what I call a national broadband internet connection so as to stimulate online business opportunities for young people. Third, I would partner closely with the private sector and bring what I call venture capital opportunities rather than loans. And in a venture capital opportunity, I would put in place systems where a young person, even an individual, can come up with a brilliant idea and partner with a private sector organization and get the idea funded to a point of productivity. I would also venture very carefully and boldly into making the young people enter the agricultural production space. They have a bulge, as we already have had, but they are absent when it comes to the process of food production.
Right, thank Betty, and you're out of time. Just a clarification, when you say you're going to provide that opportunity for online business for young people, are there clearly lined out opportunities that are on standby and not being tapped by the youth as we speak?
Thank you. The youth are everywhere in the country, right from Turkana all the way to Kwale. And these are places where access to internet is not the same, equally for all young people. Young people are young people, and they're on the phones all the time. So why can't they use the chance that they're on the phone to make money? So if we have this nationwide, high-speed internet connection, then that will stimulate, in my view, business opportunities for young people to do locally and also internationally.
All right, you're out of time on that one. We need to hear from you, Nerea. You have 1 minute to answer.
I speak as a mother of 4 youth between the ages of 18 and 23. My son, who is 18, wants to do about 10 things. Today, he wants to have a matatu. Tomorrow, he wants to do coding. The following day, he wants to be an engineer. I think one of the things that I would do as president is, first of all, to get youth to listen to them. What do they want to do? Because they have to be able to understand what they need to do. They have to be able to tell us what they believe it takes to do what they propose as youth. And very, very importantly, I look at as an opportunity as a president to shift gears. I want to look at youth as an opportunity to create the future. And I'm going to take a bold move as president, and I want to devolve the functions of youth management to the counties. Because from experience, we lack money in the counties. We need money in the counties for youth. Thank you.
Right. And, Ms. President, we want to go to the next round of questions that will be on the theme of food security. For this round, you also have 1 minute to answer, and I will be directing the questions to you. Now, according to the Global Hunger Index of 2018, Kenya has serious levels of hunger with a score of 23.2 and a ranking of 77 out of 119 counties. Now, the population of Kenya is projected to grow to 52 million. That's by next year, 2020. And I will start with you, Irene. What will you do as Ms. President to ensure that this country, but that by 2020 we'll have 52 million people, is food secure?
So what I'll do, Sharon, as president, because it pains me that in this day and age in our country, we do have people dying because of hunger. The first thing I would do is to code off this country into 3 different sections. The first section would be the ASAL communities, because we tend to have knee-jerk reactions to the issues of hunger that these people have, yet we do have people who've come up with something called hydroponic greenhouses, where you can actually plant foodstuff using the pumice stone. So what I'll do for the people in that area is to ensure that funds are allocated to have them have wells, to have them grow these foodstuffs through the hydroponic system, to have that in place. Secondly, for the people who call the food basket regions, is to have in place what is called the drone technology that helps them to reduce crop production prices so that they can grow more foodstuffs to this country. And the third final group is to the people who produce subsidiary types of food, to give them basic education that ensures they increase their production from what they currently have to a higher level.
Right. Thank you. And Waruguru.
For me, I am very keen on post-harvesting losses. Farmers in Nyandarua are pouring milk as we speak. Kirinyaga farmers are wasting away potatoes as we speak. So if we can ensure that the farmer is able to afford granaries, these ceramic granaries that they can store food for longer periods of time, then we can ensure that we have continuity of food in the country. Once we cannot deal with that post-harvesting loss crisis, we will always be wasting food, and that is the main challenge. So let the farmer be empowered through local granaries to store food for longer periods of time, and Kenya will be food secure.
Right. And Nerea, how will you promote food security in the country?
Thank you. Acknowledging that Chapter 11 of the Constitution has devolved agriculture, one of the ways in which as president I would ensure we have food security is to use conditional grants, ensure that every county provides a plan for attaining food security, and make sure that I incentivize all the counties. Number one, I look at the aspect of research for us to get quality seed. I want to look at how we can subsidize the cost of fertilizer, because input is where we have a problem. The third issue is to make sure that we can understand what the impact of rain is, so invest very well and a good proportion of money in systems that are able to predict weather. And fourth, I would make sure that I have good irrigation systems, and we actually make sure that money that is intended for irrigation goes there. I will ensure that there is no corruption and loss of money towards irrigation. All those aspects actually affect food production, and then I look at distribution and wastage. Thank you.
Right. And Betty.
Thank you. I would invest heavily in irrigation system of farming rather than relying on the rainfall system of farming, and ensure that I task the county governments to coordinate those efforts. Secondly, I would also zero-rate taxes on farm equipment and farm supplies so that our farmers can get easy access to the farm equipment and seeds and fertilizers that they need to produce the food that we so much need in Kenya. I would also bring on board the young people and ensure that young people form an integral part of the farming chain system of farming in terms of food production. I would also look at a process where the farmers themselves are capacity built in such a way that they increase their productivity right from becoming an individual farmer, and also moving forward to becoming an SME. And lastly, I would look at value chain addition on site, on the farm, and at home.
Right. And Umu, how would you secure the country in terms of food?
So earlier on I mentioned the inter-county trade initiative. This is very key. For example, when you're coming from Garissa going to Nairobi, along the road is Bangal where women are selling milk at a throwaway price. But this milk is not very available in other parts of the country. So I would invest in, to make my inter-county trade initiative viable as president, I would invest in infrastructure to ensure that roads are accessible in all parts of the country, because we are dealing with perishable goods. Farm products that come from the food baskets will be able to get into the ASAL communities, and products that come from the ASAL communities will be able to come to other parts of the country. And you cannot make every person a farmer today. Nomadic pastoral groups cannot start farming. So you bank on the things that they already have. Give them the capacity, and we shall have a food secure country. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to come to Grace in just a bit for the social media aspect and maybe some of the questions that are coming through. But very quick questions following up to what you've said. And you have 30 seconds to answer this. I'll start with you, Irene. You've talked about the use of technology. How would you fund it in 30 seconds?
So technology, how I would fund it, because first of all, the one issue that the farmers in the large food basket in this country grapple with is on the cost of production. So as a president, I would actually put funds aggressively directly into that, so that the drone technology can then help them to reduce the funds that they would spend in crop production. That this would also help them to be able to monitor the crop production in the country.
All right, Warogoro, you've talked about post-harvest waste caused by, and you know, the use of granaries and all that. But somebody might say it's because we have poor markets, number one, and lack of access, poor road networks. That's why we have waste. So you've not addressed that. All you've talked about is storage. You store it then?
When you store food, you give the farmer a higher bargaining power. Sometimes it is not about roads, like good roads or bad roads. It is simply an issue of, is the farmer able to make profits from what they're having? So when they store, they are able to negotiate for their produce, and they are able to access markets on their own terms. And that is what has been missing in the milk sector, potatoes and tomatoes in Kenya, and cabbages in Kenya.
Okay, Betty, irrigation. We have the Galana Kulalu project, which the government has done. So they've tried irrigation. What is it that you'd be doing different? Because that has flopped, according to some.
Indeed, it has flopped, but I would take a different approach by using a bottoms-up approach. And like I said, let the county governments be the ones to coordinate. So I would take an approach of engaging county governments and subsequently the grassroots communities to determine what it is that they want to grow, how it is that they want it to be irrigated, and together implement that. I wouldn't take an approach of a top-down approach, but I would let the local communities come up with that idea, support them, and let it be led by the local governments.
All right, and now would like to involve Grace and just get a few questions from the audience and social media. Grace?
Indeed, Mike, and lots of questions on social media, but there's one issue that we haven't tackled today, Mike, which is health. So there's a question here from at Petronila Adongo, who says, kindly, what would you do to curb the cancer issue? Why do Kenyans have to go all the way to India to get a high survival rate? Is there a way Kenya can have its own cancer mitigation processes or health protection for the same?
All right, and Umi, do you want to start with that question?
Yes. Indeed, cancer is a menace, and that's because as a country we do not even have data and facts to show the number of patients who are suffering from this. Recently, I was looking up at rare diseases, and the rare diseases community mentioned that they do not have data to show the kind of rare diseases that are in existence. And this is a problem today. So as president, I would ensure that we first of all invest in information because it is power. Then we find out what is causing this. And as hospitals, I ensure I invest in these hospitals.
All right, your 30 seconds are up. It's 30 seconds for this particular part. Just as a reminder, Nerea, I come to you with the same question. Cancer.
Yes, thank you. I want to appreciate that Kenya does not have adequate infrastructure. And I know presidency already has an infrastructure contract that I would use and take advantage of to make sure that every county referral hospital really has a cancer management center. I want to make cancer a basic need and a basic right. Why I say that is everybody should be able to be tested. Look at CA cervix, for example. Everyone needs to go for testing.
All right, Betty?
Thank you. I would increase the awareness to Kenyans on cancer in terms of what it is, what it's not. And I would put up systems where people are so informed in terms of going to the health facilities closest to them for cancer screening. Because we know that the earlier a cancer infection is determined, the higher the chances of survival. After that, I would also increase the options of people to have that kind of an access in the local facilities that are county-based.
All right, and Irene.
The first thing I'll do as a president is to actually declare cancer a national disaster. And in doing so, ensuring that we do have early detection measures in all our hospitals, both county and sub-county level. And the second thing, and this I'm just borrowing from one of the previous contestants who was a cancer survivor, and she told us the one thing that she does is in growing herbal foodstuffs and herbal plants, is to encourage Kenyans to grow this and to actually use this substance so that they may be able to start preventing this before it gets too late.
All right, Warogoro, your time starts now.
There is a cancer bill right now in Parliament, and I am praying to Honorable Millie Odhiambo, take Warogoro's hand and ensure that that cancer bill makes it to the table of the House. That is the first intervention in dealing with cancer by having it declared as a national disaster. Hold her hands and have it on the table. Thank you very much.
All right, and as we come to the tail end of this debate tonight, I know there are a lot of questions, but we cannot attend to all of them in the given time. But in 30 seconds, each of you has that time to give your final remarks and just your final word in 30 seconds. I'll start with you, Umi.
So I'm very honored to have been here today, and I'm very happy to be a young person and having the platform today. And it's in this spirit that I encourage young people to take up such opportunities, leadership, and anything that comes with it. And of course, you vote for me. Yeah, give me your vote, because this is a reflection of how 2022 will look like. Elect a youth and ensure that we shape the face of 2022. Thank you.
Right, and Nerea.
Yes, thank you. SDGs say that we leave no one behind. I stand here as one of the contestants who actually chose her deputy president, Jemima Putata from Coast, and she is a person with disability. And I have in the audience 5 persons with disability. I have brought them here so that you can see them. I want you to vote for me because I have listened to Kenyans all over. I have heard them, I have understood them, and I want to assure them that I am ready, I am willing to serve you as your president for everyone.
Thank you, Nerea. And Betty.
Thank you. I come to you tonight not because I'm a woman, but because I'm a leader who believes that my leadership is going to bring the kind of hope that our women, our youth, our children so desperately needs in this country. And together we can make Kenya a much greater place. Please vote for me, and my win will be a win for all of us.
Right. Thank you very much. Irene.
The fact that my grandfather is right here in the audience all the way from Nyamira is an assurance that Kenyans are ready for a female president. We have had 4 His Excellency Mr. Presidents. It is now time for Her Excellency Madam President. It is now time for Her Excellency Rais Irene Mayaka, because I am not a president for just myself. I am a president for Kenyans. I am a rais wa wote na niko hapa kwa ajili yenu. Nipigie kura.
Thank you. And finally, Baruguru.
This is for every community worker who has worked in their communities without reward or pay. This is our time. And I represent the very many men and women who are out there doing things to just change their communities. So vote for me, for Miss President. Thank you very much.
All right, and that marks the end of the live presidential debate for Miss President. And, well, you've had your chance. And remember, the vote is out there. The numbers are displayed on your screen. We are going to now wait for you to make that decision. But from here, we would like to close it and wish all of you all the best. That is Miss President. Thank you.
Check. Makofi kwao tafadhali. Were they amazing? Wapi makofi na nduru? So is Kenya ready for a female president? I can't hear you. So Umi, Nerea, Betty, Honorable Irene Mayaka, and Warogoro Kiai. Those are the 5 remaining contestants. Remember, the voting lines are still open because next week we are back here to figure out who amongst these 5 will be Miss President. I want to give a special thanks to the trainers and the judges. Where are you? Come on.